sliders are a valuable tool in the film industry and really provide a unique aesthetic to your shots. However, with a price tag of upwards of $800 to $1,000, a filmmaker just starting out might not have the budget to acquire that tool. And after spending a lot of money on a decent camera, a decent microphone, a decent video tripod, decent video editing software, you might be ready to throw decencies out the window and just start cutting some corners or costs. So that's what this video is about. This video is about teaching you, if you're not willing, able, or even wanting to spend that extra money on a sliding rig, how to achieve it the best way possible. We're gonna be talking about some super cheap and free alternatives to using a slider, and we're also going to be talking about some more expensive but below the budget of what an actual slider would cost. So, and if you notice on this camera right here, I actually have it on a motorized sliding rig, and I'll talk to you more about that at the end of this video, but that's actually how I'm achieving this sliding shot, if you were wondering at home. The first solution I'm gonna be talking about today in this episode for achieving a nice sliding shot without actually spending the money on a slider would be steady hands and a lot of warp stabilizer. So if you believe you have very kung fu-like steady grip on your camera and you're not gonna be having any shake problems, then by all means, don't spend the $800 and see if it works for you. One recommendation and strategy that I've seen people do with just holding their camera for moving shots would be to have your camera strap attached and tuck your arms like so and move around like that. You're getting smooth motion without the risk of, you know, shaking around, doing a nice dance. So, you know, after shooting like that and having smooth hands, you know, taking that footage into a program like Premiere Pro and applying the warp stabilizer effect on it might actually achieve a very nice, smooth shot. Another tip that I would have for this strategy would be to be shooting, if possible, in 60 frames a second to then slow it down in post and try to get even smoother motion. And that's not gonna work for every shot because you might need to shoot at 24, but, you know, that's just an alternative. And disclaimer, warp stabilizer is a very finicky effect. You know, if you're not, it really is a clip by clip basis for what it will work on and what it won't work on. Because I've had before clips that I thought were junk, just throw them out, but then you start learning, save those clips for the end and then try to apply warp stabilizer. And there were clips out there that looked like, you know, there was an earthquake going on, like shots where I'm walking my dog and only holding the camera with one hand, you know, and applying warp stabilizer, perfect. It's a perfect shot now. However, with other clips where you just have a tiny shake, a tiny jitter, warp stabilizer might be like, nah, bro, I'm not working on this tiny little problem. I'm gonna fuck everything up. So it's a very finicky tool, but it's free if you have the program already. The next alternative to actually purchasing and using a slider would be these guys. I use these almost every day in my personal life. These are the Pixie and Pixie Evo by Manfrotto. And this one is made for cell phones. This one is made for heavier rigs like a DSLR with a moderate lens attachment. I use it with my GH4 with the Rode VideoMic Pro and an 11-16 typically. And it's solid. It hasn't broken yet. I mean, I'm recording now, so, you know, and the reason I'm bringing these up in this video is because you can actually achieve a nice sliding shot. The thing you're always going to be wanting to look for if you're trying to achieve a sliding shot without a slider, in most cases, would be a smooth surface. So if you have a mini tripod like, you know, the Manfrotto Pixies, you know, you can easily set up your shots, you know, to give you a little example. This has a ball head attachment, so you're easily able to adjust for imbalances. You can easily achieve a nice sliding shot, even some parallaxes, you know, or reveals. If I wanted to reveal the Pixie Evo into the shot, I can do so with this setup. You know, and the smaller version clocks in around $39, I believe. I got it as a Christmas gift, so I'm not too sure. And the larger version, the Pixie Evo, clocks in around $50, $59. You can check on current prices. Manfrotto typically does rebates. But it's a nice alternative to, instead of spending the money on a slider, $800, you can spend less than $100 and get a nice sliding shot, depending on what you're doing. If you're doing a vlog, great tool. If you're doing a Hollywood budget film, this is shit. So it really depends on what your goals are with your film. So the next tool I'm gonna be talking about that you can use as an alternative to actually purchasing a slider would be the Steadicam Solo. Purchasing this product was a godsend for me because I don't like spending money. It was $300 on rebate, but it's one of the best purchases I've ever made, and I actually now own 2 of them because it is a very efficient tool. If you look at certain tools in the film industry, an ND filter makes things darker. A tripod just holds things up. A slider moves back and forth. However, the Steadicam Solo that I have, you can use it as a monopod, you can use it as a Steadicam for tracking shots, and actually you can use it as a slider. A lot of people don't talk about that, but you can use it as a slider. And one of my tips for that would be set it to 60 frames per second, if possible, and really get a nice understanding of the weight and balance everything out and go slow and smooth. And you can reveal from behind walls, you can drop it down, flip it upside down and do some tracking shots on the ground. But it's a very useful tool that if you're not wanting to spend a lot of money, if you're done paying for decent equipment, maybe consider purchasing one more thing, and I would really recommend considering this. It's a great monopod, it's a terrific Steadicam, and it works really well at being a slider, even though that's not what it's meant for. So $299, but you get 3 great things out of it versus $800 for just a slider. So the last tool I'm gonna be talking about in this video for achieving sliding shots is actually this one. The camera that's moving back and forth on my motion slider, it's not on a slider at all. Right there. It's not moving, it's steady. It ain't going nowhere. So this last tip, trick, or whatever you wanna call it, is keyframing. Keyframing is where you go in a post-production editing software, you add artificial motion to create what looks like a sliding shot, a crane shot, you know, all these different motion shots artificially. And it's super easy to do. You zoom into your clip and then tell the program to start way over here on the left and by the end of the shot be on the right. And it adds that smooth motion to your shots. And it's free. If you have the editing software, Premiere Pro, it's free. I'm sure Final Cut does something like it, if not the exact same thing, I don't know. And by using keyframing as your method of achieving a slider shot, it takes away having to lug around heavy equipment. It takes away the inconsistencies that a lot of people have in their sliding speeds. And it also takes away the hefty price tag of purchasing a slider. All you need is a camera, lens, tripod. That's it. And you have a nice sliding shot, a very smooth sliding shot. And I do have some tips for achieving these types of shots with keyframing. The first one would be shoot a little bit wider. You know, even if you're going for a tight shot, pull back a bit, get a little room for you to mess around with in post-production. Because like I said, keyframing is all about just basically pushing into your shot and moving it around. If you're already way too close, you don't have room to push in. The second tip I have, try to add any type of foreground that you can to get some sort of depth in your shots. If you're doing a lockdown shot at a bar, you can, put some beer bottles around and add some depth that way to have some stuff out of focus to make it look like you're using a nice professional slider when you're not. Really being cognizant to the foreground, because that's ultimately what makes a great sliding shot. Think of the reveals that you see with sliding shots. If they didn't have the foreground, you wouldn't be revealing anything. So sliders do have their place in film. They really provide a nice aesthetic, they look great, and if you have the budget, great. However, a lot of people, especially people just starting out in the film industry, they're chasing their dreams. They might not have the ability to spend all of their paychecks just on film equipment. That's why videos like this are important. And if you have tips and tricks yourself of how to achieve unique sliding shots, leave them down below in the comments. Anyway, that's all the tips and tricks I personally have for achieving a sliding shot using alternative methods. Be sure to like and subscribe this video, and also keep an eye on Fishboy Productions. We're always coming out with short films, music videos, how-tos, a lot of behind the scenes stuff to show, viewers like you what we do. Thanks for watching, and go film something.